Yo, so I'm about to make a video on just like quick mixing on your vocals because yeah, I got somebody asked me to do it.
Good boy.
So shout out to homie Peachy, this video for you. You know, the request was mad people on YouTube just showing you how to look like T-Pain in 2010. I know a lot of people that aren't trying to sound like T-Pain in 2010, so this video just kind of gonna be like, you know, when you get your lead vocal in there, how to just make it like cleaned up so it sounds, you know, decent enough. You could send it to a mix engineer and he could mess around with it more. You know, if you just like drop it on SoundCloud or some shit like that, you know, this will clean it up and just make it sound a little bit more professional. Without further ado, what I got right here is I just recorded like a couple takes. This is like an ad-lib track, and this is like a little verse over a beat. It's nothing special, it's just for the sake of the video, so we got something to work with. Step one, we're gonna go ahead and count how many tracks we've got here total. I got 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have 4 total recording tracks. We're gonna need to make sure that in our playback, we have 4 tracks. So you wanna just right click and insert one. That's just gonna add a new track. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 total, right? You know, you really shouldn't need more than 4 tracks unless you're doing like a ton of layers. Ultimately, we're gonna have this is all probably just gonna be on 2 tracks, right? For the sake of this video, we're just doing a lead vocal. We're gonna pretend we're doing a lead vocal and ad-lib track. We're gonna pretend that there's no background vocals, no like hook with layers on it. We're just gonna skip that for the sake of this video. But I'll do another video on how to do with background vocals as well. So what you're gonna do is you're just gonna hold control and drag over all this, highlight it, hold shift and hit the down arrow, move everything down to your playback track. So now if we just go ahead and listen to it. Yeah. Okay, so this part is gonna get cut out. It's just for practice. Yeah. Alright, so you can hear that there's a lot of stuff going on in there. It's all gotta get removed, right? 70% of mixing is getting rid of you don't need. The way to get a track to sound as professional as possible is to just remove stuff that is unnecessary. Noise, silences, clips, is to just get rid of all of that. Frequencies that you don't need, because all that's gonna do is compound together when you start making your mix louder, and it's just gonna muddy your up. So to start with it, we're gonna go ahead and grab our slice tool. You can either click on this button up here, you can just press C on your keyboard. And what we're gonna go ahead and do is we're gonna solo each clip. I just right clicked on the mute button right here. We're gonna solo each clip, and we're just gonna get rid of all the we don't need. So all this right here that's playing. Yeah, yep. Okay, so this part is gonna get cut out. It's just for practice. Had to plant. All right, so we know that all that before right here had to plant many is gonna get deleted. So what I'm gonna go ahead and do is hold shift and left click with my mouse, and I'm gonna go ahead and switch to my draw tool and just right click on that shit. Now it's gone. And now this is all gonna be perfectly silent. None of it's gonna show up in the recording. Now, something to keep in mind, it's really important when you collect a recording that you're recording loud, but not so loud that you're clipping, but also that the room you're recording in is quiet. Because if you have a fan on in the background, you have an AC running, a TV playing, someone's taking a shower upstairs and you can hear the water in the walls, all that's gonna get picked up in your recording. And when you make your vocals louder, that's also gonna get elevated too, and you're gonna hear it in the mix. So the best thing you can do for yourself is to make sure that the recording you get is clean, as clean as possible. You can't polish a turd, if that makes sense, right? I mean, you can. It's real dirty tricks, but it's not gonna sound super professional, right? A good tip to notice here is if I click on this and I click on the normalize button, you see how this waveform just got bigger? That means that nothing in here is clipping. That's a good thing, right? Because normalize takes the loudest point of this recorded track and it puts it at exactly 0 dB, so right when it would start to clip. So if your track gets louder, it means nothing's there yet. On the flip side, if I go ahead and switch this and I turn the boost up, you can see the quietest parts here. If I go ahead and zoom in, you can see like these are the quietest parts when it's supposed to be silenced. This is the room noise. So if this is really loud for you compared to the rest of your vocals, that's not good, man. You need to figure out a way to eliminate that. See, my boost is turned all the way up, and look how quiet my room kind of is, right? So you just want to make sure that, you know, you're rocking with a decent recording to begin with. Now, back to the actual clipping part. We're just gonna go ahead and clip the beginning and the ends of all of these different takes. Now, I recorded punch-ins, and then I also just recorded a 1 take, just so we had a little bit of variety to work with. So, had to plant many root right there. That transition is pretty smooth. We're gonna go ahead to the end of this phrase here. Hit. We're gonna go ahead and delete right here. Hit. And that's good. Now, the most important thing with this is you just want to make sure you're not cutting in the middle of a word, right? Like, you don't want to cut here because you're going to get that. It's just going to sound terrible. You get that weird silence. So go ahead and undo all that. But yeah, we got that clip there. And we're going to go ahead over here. I'm going to listen here. Still walk like. I'm going to go ahead and hold shift and alt because I actually want to cut off the grid here. So if I hold shift and I hold alt and right click at the same time, it'll like kick me off the grid. And I want to clip right here, right before this, or right after this breath, but right before the first word. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that. To walk like a scholar and talk like a... Now you see I actually clipped part of a word. So now I'm going to hold the Alt button and highlight right over the edge here with my mouse so I get this drag option. I'm going to slide it back out because this part was actually the beginning of the S that I didn't realize. Still walk like a scholar and talk like a prophet. There you go. And now we're going to go back to the end over here. And I'm going to go ahead and clip right there. Maybe we'll see how that sounds. Still walk like a scholar to dropping. Bang. Money. So now that we got that done, we're going to go ahead and go to this track here. This little middle part here. We're going to clip right there. We'll say. Took the stairs, no assists. Make them pivot and flip. Flow like the wrist when I flick it on a stain. We'll clip like right here, we'll say. We'll go ahead and get rid of that. So now that we got all that done, we're going to do the ad-lib track separately. There's a different way to do this that I think works well on ad-lib tracks, but kind of only on ad-lib tracks, but we'll get into that down the road. But for now, what we want to do is we're going to go ahead and hold control and highlight over all of these. And we're going to zoom in to just one of the tracks, and you're going to grab this little triangle up in the corner. It's called the crossfade option. What we're going to do is we're going to move it one bump out this way. And then we're going to go to the end of the phrase, and we're going to do the same thing, move it one bump in. All this does is it prevents your tracks from clipping. Like if you do have some background noise in there and you start your track right on a clean cut, when sound goes from 0 to not 0, it clips unless it fades in. If it fades in, it's not gonna, or I'm sorry, not clip. The word isn't clip. Clicks and pops. But if it fades in, it's not gonna click. It's not gonna pop because it's gonna be more a gentle transition. It's not a 0 to 100. It's a 0 through 100, if that makes sense. So another easy way you can do this too is if you just double click on a sample and you change this to like transient bleeding, or you change it to generic bleeding if you want a longer bleed, up to you. But yeah, so now that we got that done, we're gonna go ahead and highlight this, and I'm gonna move that up, and we want to make sure that there's no crossfade. Sometimes what you might see is something that looks like this, right? This is not good because this is what that sounds like. When it hit, took the stairs, no, it's gonna mess with this first word by turning this volume down in this last phrase. So what we want to do is we just want to back these up just until we get the one bump, if that makes sense. When it hit, took the stairs, no assists, make them pivot and flip. Smoother. Now we're gonna collect all that and we're gonna move it down to our vocals here. This is the other section here. We're gonna talk about this right here. So this is our comp, right? We took a couple different punch-ins and we basically put them together to make one track. Sometimes if you're nasty, you can one take stuff, and more power to you. Not a lot of people can do that. So if you got the one take here, maybe there's parts or words that you said in these other takes that you like better and you want to use them. Had to plant many roots to grow my name up. Had to plant many roots to grow my name up. So those sound pretty similar. I actually like the way that this sounds better. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and clip this here. I'm going to clip this here. And I'm going to do the same thing on the track underneath it. I'm going to go ahead and move this track out of the way. And I'm going to shift this one down. It's going to ask if I want to make it unique. Just say yes. I'm going to shift this one down. And I'll replace this back up there. So now I basically swapped these phrases. And if I mute this one. Had to plant many roots to grow my name up. Now the fruits of my labor got a real bold flavor. So that basically just helps ensure that you're getting the best possible phrases from each recording, if that makes sense. So if you make a mistake in a phrase, but you know you got it right in a different recording take, you can take that chop from the other recording take and reinsert it into your vocal comp. So this is basically your finished product. And everything that's in here are your tools. And you want to take all the best pieces of your tools and put them in to make one good, clean, finished product. So now that we've got that out of the way, another thing you could do is kind of nitpicky. But if you don't want to hear your breaths in the song, like I know some people like editing out the breaths, you could do that too. You'd have to go in there and like manually go through all these, delete them all, whatever. That gets really tedious. Like you'd have to do that here. You'd have to do that here, here. probably like in here, you know what I mean? So that can be annoying, but I will say if you're gonna do it for all the breaths. Don't just do a few. I feel like it's kind of an all or nothing thing. Otherwise, it's gonna be really inconsistent for a listener. So now that we've got this on the track, I'm gonna go ahead into our mixer and we're gonna look at our vocals. Now we're not done getting rid of shit that we don't need yet. Not yet. Something very important in our vocal recording that we're going to want to get rid of, and that's the low end of our vocal recording. So especially in hip hop music, that bass, that low end, that sub, that high energy bass is really important, and everybody wants their 808s to be knocking, right? The best way to do that isn't actually to turn up your bass, it's actually to turn down the bass and everything else that's not the bass, because then it makes the bass the only thing that's playing, and that's what gives it that loudness in the low end. So what we want to do is we want to open up a plugin like an EQ, like parametric EQ, and we want to go ahead and cut or roll off around 80 to 90 hertz, because this is like the frequency in your vocal that it's just unnecessary. Like there's nothing going on down here that you need to keep, and I'll show you what I mean. If I open up a different plugin and I do a high cut, maybe at the beat. Had to plant many roots to grow my name up. Now the fruits. So if I do a brick wall, so this is all the frequencies beneath 100 hertz. Can you even hear anything? Unless you got good headphones on, I doubt you can even hear anything. But you see that there's stuff going on there. So we just want to get rid of all of that. Like even up to probably like 120. Yeah, like all that is garbage. Like that's just stuff going on that we don't need. So we want to get rid of that. So the best way we do that is using an
Life
EQ.
like a dice roll, betting on the process how
I'm just cutting a little bit out using this one knob on the panoramic, whatever the fuck this shit's called, EQ. We're going to go ahead and team our sibilances. So when I say S, see how that sounds kind of crisp, right? It's aggressive. It almost hurts your ears if you're listening on headphones too loud. We want to tame that. We want to make it so it's not so aggressive. It doesn't hurt your ears so much. And the way we do that is with it's a type of multi-band compression. Now don't get tripped up on the big word, okay? It's not that important. All it means is that we're taking a certain frequency and we're just turning down the volume in that certain frequency when it goes over a certain volume.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
So that might be a little confusing, but I'll explain it with the visual. You want to go ahead and grab Maximus. That's the default plugin. And the preset you're going to want to use is De-esser split band. What you're going to see is you're going to see an orange and red area up here. You want to move this orange area to about 5K, where it says 5K up there. Let me full screen this. It says 5K up here. You want to move this band right to about 5K. Don't worry about what all this is showing you. All you want to do is go ahead and click on your mid option here, and you're going to play your song. Your verse,
Had to plant many roots to grow my name up. Now the fruits of my labor got a real bold flavor. Look, I penscriptional minister. I'm intricate with spit the truth like liquor. Make 'em sit when it hit. Took the stairs, no assists. Make 'em.
So what you want to do is you want to turn this knob down a little bit here, because this is your overall like filter, if that makes sense. And this is gonna kind of act as your tension, or how aggressive that compression on the S is gonna sound. So listen again, and I want you to pay attention to how the S's sound when I play with this knob.
Had to plant many roots to grow my name up. Now the fruits of my labor got a real bold flavor. Look, I penscriptional minister. I'm intricate with spit the truth like liquor. Make 'em sit when it hit. Took the stairs, no assists. Make 'em pivot and flip.
So you can see that you can easily overdo it or underdo it. So you got to be kind of careful, and it ends up becoming like an ear thing. You just kind of learn to hear what sounds good, and that's kind of the whole beauty of mixing, right? That's the art of mixing. But you want to just adjust it so it's taming enough, but not so much that it's too much, if that makes sense. I know it's fucking arbitrary, like you stupid as but you get what I'm saying, right? You can hear the difference. So after we get that, the last thing we're gonna do, just to keep this as simple as possible, is add compression. They have a default compressor. It sucks. Don't use it. Being able to visualize it is a lot better. So I'm going to go ahead and open Fruity Limiter. Now, basically what a compressor is doing, I could do a whole separate video on compression, but the gist of it is it turns the loudest part of your vocal down and the quietest part of your vocal up. So this is why it's important that you get a good recording, because if you have a fan going on in the background, using this plugin, which everybody's going to use this plugin, because this is how you make things sound louder. When you get fan or that background noise in your recording, this is going to amplify that. So it's really important that you get as clean a recording as possible. So There's two knobs on here. There's really only two knobs on here that you need to worry about for right now, and that's the threshold knob and the ratio knob. The way this works is when audio plays, when you turn this threshold knob, it's going to say that any sound above this threshold. So if I turn my threshold down to -16, right? You can see in the top left corner where it says like -16 dB up in here. When it's down to -16 decibels, that's what dB means. Every time my sound, the audio, goes above -16 decibels, it's going to get turned down or compressed at a ratio of whatever I set this to. So right now it's set to 1:1. So that means anytime the audio goes above this noise level, it's not going to do anything. But if I turn this ratio to, I don't know, 3:1 maybe, 4:1, let's do 3, we'll do 3.5 to 1. That means for every decibel above, or every 3.5 decibels above that threshold that I go, it's going to compress it into 1 decibel. So it's basically compressing it to a 3.5 to 1 ratio, if that makes sense. So that helps tame like your loud parts and makes them not as loud while still keeping the energy that you had when you said it. So that way everything just sounds more consistent and more balanced throughout the entire song. So it's super subtle because it's not on all the time, which is important. You don't want it to sound compressed. You want it to do the job that it's supposed to do, which is just tame those peaks and the really loud parts to make everything more balanced. You don't actually want to hear that it's working. If you can hear that it's working, you're probably using it too aggressively and using too much. Yeah, that's basically the gist of it. Honestly, as far as like mixing goes, this is fine. You could send this to an engineer. You could just upload this. I would recommend if you're sending it to an engineer just to not even do any of this because it's a lot harder to undo something if you were to mess it up on accident. But yeah, that's really it. And if you wanted to add like vocal effects, like now would be a great time to do that because essentially we've gotten rid of everything that we need to get rid of, which is 95% of mixing. Now we're going to go ahead and bring things back. A big thing that some people like to do is they like to boost the top end of their vocals. So maybe like around 7,000 hertz, maybe boost it like 1 or 2 decibels. You can see that again up here in the hint panel, you can see how many decibels, like that's raised up 2.0 decibels right there. That just makes your voice sound a little crisper, right? It's
Had to plant many roots to grow my name up. Now the fruits of my labor got a real bold flavor. Look, I pen scripture.
It's super subtle, and if you're not listening on great headphones, you're probably not gonna be able to hear it. We're gonna go ahead and send this over here. If you want to do a reverb, we're gonna go ahead and click this button right here. Make sure our vocal's going over here. We're gonna rename this to reverb, and we're gonna go ahead and add on our fruity reverb 2. Now, something important to note. What we've just done is we've created what's called an aux or a send. This is where our vocal's coming in, and then our vocal gets sent to our master, but our vocal also now gets sent to this reverb chain, and the reverb chain gets sent to the master. By doing this, we've essentially doubled the loudness of our vocal, which we don't want to do. All we want to come out of this track is just the reverb. So what we need to do is we need to turn down the dry all the way and turn the wet all the way up. What that means, the wet is the actual effect, and the dry is the signal that comes into the effect. So the dry is the vocal that we recorded, and the wet is the reverb that comes as a result of that vocal. It's like a cause and effect, basically. We don't want any of the original vocal because it's all coming out of this track. We only want this track to be wet. We want that wet reverb, you feel me? Now it's going to sound super reverby. Listen.
Had to plant many roots to grow my name up.
Obviously, you don't want your vocal to sound, maybe you do, but you probably don't want your vocal to sound like that. So what you're going to do is you're going to use this fader knob right here to turn it down till you're comfortable with it.
Had to plant many roots to grow my name up. Now the fruits of my labor got a real bold flavor.
Now you can also go into your reverb and actually, adjust some of these settings like the decay time. Maybe you don't want it to be so loud. Maybe you want to adjust, the frequencies that actually get the reverb. For the sake, we'll do like, I don't know, right around there. Then maybe we'll stereo separate it as well.
Had to plant many roots to grow my name up. Now the fruits of my labor got a real bold flavor. Look,
So that's pretty much it. And you could go ahead and upload that. If you wanted to do different effects, same thing. Go back to the vocal track, send it over here, and put on, whatever effect you want to do, a delay, a flanger, chorus, whatever. But that's the best way to do that. And, once you're done with that, it's as simple as just exporting your track. Make sure you re-unmute your beat. and just balance the volume on everything. Now that you've edited and processed things, your volume level of your vocal is going to be different, so you just want to match it to your beat.
Had to plant many roots to grow my name up. Now the fruits of my labor got a real bold flavor. Look, I pen scriptional minister. I'm intricate with spit the truth like liquor, make them sit when it hit. Took the stairs, no assists, make them pivot and flip. Flow like the wrist when I flick it on a switch.
It's that simple, right? Now we're going to go ahead and get into the ad-lib track. Now the ad-libs are going to be done a little differently. We're going to move those down to the vocals already because we're just going to assume that we like everything that's on there, and we're going to send them to insert track number 6. Again, right click, track mode, audio track, insert track number 6. Now, you might be sending them to different inserts, but for the sake of the video, you just want to put them on, you know, your next open track, right? Something that's important about ad-libs, I'm about to sneeze, hold on. There's a ton of space in between these in between the individual ad-libs, right? So especially if you have like a long track, like this recording right here is only 45 seconds. But if you have a 3-minute song and you've got ad-libs going through the whole thing, it's really tedious to go through and cut in between all these individual spaces. So there's actually a plugin that kind of does that for you. Now, I would only recommend using this on ad-libs because it's a very destructive plugin and it does a ton of deleting. It basically functions opposite. It's called a gate. It functions opposite of a compressor, where every noise below a certain volume level, it just completely turns off. That's great if you want to eliminate background noise, but at the same time, you have to be aware that it's also going to take out part of your vocal too. So we're going to go ahead and grab Maximus, and we're going to go to the presets, and we're going to go ahead and grab our gate.
Word.
But when I turn the gate off, you can hear how much background noise is in there, right?
Make them sit.
When I
Flip.
turn it on, all that background noise is gone, but it's also destroying the actual vocal. So we want to avoid that, and the best way to do that is we got to turn our threshold down. So this right here is our little threshold knob, and we're just going to slowly drag it over.
Make them sit. Flip.
We're going to keep going a little bit more maybe.
Swish. Nah. Word.
And we're going to turn this down as well.
Profit.
This is our tension.
Profit. Drop them.
So now I'm actually getting the actual vocals coming through clearly, while also still eliminating that background noise. So that's a good trick for your ad-lib track. Let me just rename this really quickly so I know which track this is. Stay organized. That's my most important tip. With mixing, stay organized. Yeah, after that, man, really simple. For ad-libs, adding it's called a bandpass filter, but basically just doing a cut on the low and the highs is cool. You can, go through presets here if you want. You could do like a old like radio maybe.
Make them sit.
Right, like that's a cool effect.
Flip.
And send it to your reverb.
Swish.
Right?
Nah.
You could even send it to a delay. So you could make a new track here, call
Word.
it delay.
Profit.
And we'll open Fruity Delay
Profit.
3. Make sure our dry is turned all the way down and our wet is turned all the way up. Maybe do like a ping pong, tempo sync. We'll keep the pitch, whatever. Maybe we'll turn our feedback down so it isn't crazy delay. And we'll send it to the delay as well. Now, remember, we got to turn the volume down. Otherwise, it's going to be OD.
Make them sit. Flip.
But there you go. And now you've got your ad-lib tracks in. So I hope that helped. When I mix every vocal, that's exactly what I start with. Is I just start with cutting out that I don't need, making sure that the recording's as clean as possible. And before I even start putting any plugins or effects on anything, I make sure I've gotten rid of everything I need. Everything's comped, organized, it looks good. And then once that's done, then you can actually get creative and start adding on plugins, EQs, compressors, reverbs, things like that. If auto-tune's the style you're going for, throw the auto-tune on too. But for the sake of the video, obviously we're not doing that. So this is just kind of like a quick, brief mix. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's the video. Yeah, if you got any questions, anything you're not clear on still, leave a comment and I can try and make another video or respond to your comment. Maybe I can help you out. If you hated the video, leave a thumbs down. If you liked it, leave a thumbs up. I do appreciate both positive and negative feedback because it helps let me know what kind of videos people actually want to see. So yeah, I hope y'all have a good rest of your day. Yeah, keep rocking, fellas. Peace.